Now, I'd like to welcome Mr. Peter Mathews, Financial Consultant. We recall that he addressed the committee previously on the same subject, the NAM and the banking crisis. And by virtue of Section 17(2)(l) of the Defamation Act 2009, witnesses are protected by absolute privilege in respect of their evidence to this committee. If you are directed by the committee to cease giving evidence in relation to a particular matter, and they continue to do so, you are entitled thereafter only to qualified privilege in respect of your evidence. You are directed that only evidence connected with the subject matter of these proceedings to be given, and you are asked to respect the parliamentary practice to the effect that, where possible, you should not criticise nor make charges against any person or entity by name or in such a way as to make him or her identifiable. Further, under the salient rulings of the Chair, members should not comment on, criticise or make charges against a person outside the House or an official by name in such a way as to make him or her identifiable. So, Mr. Mathews, we've now since your last appearance had Mr. Honohan, Governor, we've had Watson and Regling report.
Klaus Reckling and Max Watson.
Yeah.
And you've had now the bank.
The bank. So what are your opinions on
and again, thank you, Cathaoirleach, and members of the Oireachtas for inviting me back here. And it was unfortunate that the first time around, Klaus Reckling had to come in to brief the members and catch a flight back to Berlin, so we were truncated earlier than one would have liked. And here I am again, and unfortunately it's been front-loaded this time with Anglo-Irish Bank from 12:30 to 3 o'clock. And I hope that my car isn't being clamped because I put in the maximum stipend that I should.
The chairman will ensure he has a petty cash fund.
But anyway, this is in the national interest, and as I said on my opening remarks, that it took 6 years to cook this time bomb, and it merits more than a few minutes or even a couple of hours of independent, conscientiously researched and analysed information. I gave the members, through the chairman and individually, 4 or 5 pages of a dossier of summary overview of the recapitalisation requirements of the viable banks, because it's become apparent since the meltdown in September 2008, and it should have been anticipated by professional people carrying out their professional duties and their professional work competently, that there was going to be very big depletion of capital by way of loan losses on a hugely carelessly increased loan portfolios across the system. Well, the figures on the first 2 pages show that between AIB, Bank of Ireland and the Educational Building Society, which is a viable organisation that took just one step too far, luckily it was a short-timed and a shortish step into property lending, commercial property lending. But you'll see from that 2 pages that the requirement of recapitalisation for those 3 institutions is about 17.5 billion. And it arises from a very simple and a very honest calculation of the loans that were identified as being badly made and listed for NAMA purposes. In the case of AIB, 24 billion of loans. In the case of Bank of Ireland, 16 billion loans. And if you apply a fair and accurate, as it's turning out, and probably maybe even understated 40% write-off against those loans, it results in figures of 9.6 billion and 6.4 billion respectively for the 2 banks, which should be rounded to 10 billion and 6.5 billion as their capital replacement requirement now. We've been unfortunately fed the story that in the course of the year up to the end of this current calendar year, that by a mixture of asset sales and reorganisation of assets and realisation of assets, like the sale of a bank or the sale of part of a bank in the case of AIB, or the sale of a building society in the case of Bank of Ireland, and by way of a placing and a rights issue in the case of Bank of Ireland, that they will arrive at what has been declared by them and given a sort of the approval, in inverted commas. I won't say it was the sort of cheerful or strong approval of the regulator and the governor of the central bank that it should be okay to have 7.4 billion at the end of the year for AIB and 3.65 or 3.7 billion in the case of Bank of Ireland by the end of the year. We've just seen that those figures don't address what a simple calculation by reference to simple facts, simple market conditions indicate. Now, this question is so big, and the clock ticks, and it's 3:10. We've heard the presentation of Anglo-Irish Bank, its chairman and its managing director, and its chief financial officer here today. And it was sort of a three-stage introduction. In the first case, the chairman said, you know, the credentials of our board are undoubted, and we have this excellent new board with the arrival of 3 new people who have extensive, vast experience and qualifications. There was a subsequent debate by Senator Ross that pointed out that maybe the selection criteria was not ideal because of some of the more recent responsibilities of 1 or 2 of those board members. And I'd agree with that, and it should be persisted. And the reason why I agree with it is this, that in the 2 reports that came out last week, Professor Honohan, the Governor of the Central Bank, Klaus Reckling and Max Watson, the independent international consultants. In the case of Patrick Honohan's report, the conclusions, which actually haven't received an awful lot of consideration and digestion by the press, they're very easy to read. They cover only 3 pages. And they're quite incisive in what they say. And in sort of pedestrian speak, they say that governance by directors was pretty appalling in the banking sector. And in turn, above that, the supervision by regulation was appalling. And surprisingly, it says, in a way too, that it would have taken courage for people a little bit removed and lower down from the top. It would have taken courage to sort of persist in their views or inquiries or whatever they were doing in the course of their work. And I found that breathtaking myself, because in the course of their duties, everybody has to be courageous. Every day. Policemen, firemen, nurses, doctors. You can't just sort of go around in a sort of a blank sleepwalk about your work. And that's what happened. And that was wrong.